The backrooms are my favourite. All of the endless hallways and the static that just fills every single room. And the endless possibilities of what could be around any corner. And so I'm going to do something that's never been done before. I'm going to build it in Minecraft. Okay, it may have been done a few times before. However, I want to really try and take it to the next level. I'm not just going to build a couple of hallways, I'm going to build an entire reality. Before I begin actually making the backrooms though, we're going to need a palette. I'm going to use this cube as an example room to test what blocks I want to use. For the floor, I'm thinking we could use light grey wool to really match the office-like feeling of the backrooms. I could use concrete powder, but I think wool will sound cooler as you're running on it. The walls are a lot more tricky though, as the backrooms have a very specific wallpaper. I think the best we could do is maybe using bamboo, but we can maybe mix in some stripped birch logs too, just to make them look a bit better. I might change this later though, as I'm not too sure if it's too yellow. And then finally for the roof, I think end stone is perfect. It has a kind of popcorn texture that most old offices have, which fits perfectly. We can even remove some of the roof tiles to add in light panels. In fact, let's use frog lights for these as they're more yellow, and we can even move them back a block and add some white glass panes in front to add more of a cold glow. My only slight worry is that this doesn't capture how claustrophobic the backrooms are meant to be, so we can move the roof down by a couple of blocks. Yeah, I think that's much better. So now all I have to do is make the layout, and then I can copy this design onto all of the walls, the floors, and the ceilings. I want this to be huge. Like I want it to basically be endless. I'm going to try and fill this entire area in with hallways and rooms that all connect to the redstone blocks that I've placed on each side. Then I'll be able to stack the entire design endlessly in each direction to turn it from a 500 by 500 grid into a 10,000 by 10,000 grid. I'm going to build up where the walls will go by hand, just to really make the layout feel random. I'm just using white concrete for now, but once it's all marked out, I'll add the texturing that we made before. I really doubt that it's going to take too long. Yeah, never mind, this might actually take a while. I'm varying the sizes of the hallways and the rooms a lot. I want some halls to be 1 block wide and feel extremely claustrophobic, while some rooms can seem endless in size and just huge. Having that contrast will really make this feel like an unnatural place that's just not meant to exist. Some of the thinner halls will even be the only way to access these giant areas. If I get this right, it's going to look so unsettling. I promise this isn't a mistake, but I'm purposefully even building some areas that you physically can't enter, as they'll be walled off entirely. That way, when I later no-clip some rooms into the walls, it should open up some of these areas in a couple of the tiles. I was not expecting that this would take me 6 hours, but I think we're finally done with the layout. Or at least this tile of it. I genuinely thought that this would take 2 hours at most, but now it should all seem worth it. Let's quickly just stack all of the walls up by 4 blocks. Yeah, it's already looking so cool. I was worried about if this was going to be big enough, and it definitely is. But because all of the walls have been increased up to 5 blocks, I quickly want to just go around and manually lower some of them. In especially the bigger rooms, I don't want every wall to go to the ceiling. I really want it to look like this main image from the new Backrooms movie, where lots of the walls are just different heights and there's some areas carved out of some of the walls. We can even define some of the doorways a little bit more too, to make them feel smaller. I don't want to spend too long doing this, but it should hopefully make a big difference. And now let's just change the floor to light grey wool really quickly. And we can also add in the bamboo wool texture finally. Ooh, yeah, I don't know about that. I think it might be a bit too yellow and too detailed. Maybe I'll go more in the direction of the movie and try and make the walls more pale and smooth. Switching out the bamboo planks to smooth sandstone could work. Yeah, that looks a lot better. I'll probably need to switch the bamboo blocks too. Maybe we just switch them to sand so it blends a bit nicer. Actually, suspicious sand looks really good too. The texture on it kind of reminds me of the Backrooms wallpaper. I think that's the closest that we'll be able to get. I'm just going to change the bamboo blocks to suspicious sand, and then the birch logs can be regular sand. Yeah, instantly this looks a lot better in my opinion. I'm very glad I changed that, as it transforms the entire build. This really reminds me of the Backrooms already, and it's not even got a roof yet, so let's add that. I've added in the popcorn roof design that we made earlier, but let's see how it looks from the inside, as that's all that matters. Okay, this is cool. I think I'm cooking. It's really creepy in here, and if I keep walking around, I'm definitely gonna get lost very quickly. There's only one slight issue. I forgot, but I've got night vision on. Yeah, we definitely need to add some lighting. From the outside, this is gonna look awful, but I'm just gonna place frog lights behind every single block of endstone. And then from the inside, as you can see, we can just remove the endstone and place down the glass wherever we want the lights. I can probably even use some world edit to speed this up a bit. It's still gonna take a while as I want to be very specific with where the lights are, but placing them in grids like this will just help them look more like real office lights. For the bigger rooms especially, I only want parts of the room to be lit up though, so that there are still some dark corners that have no lighting. I just keep getting lost putting down lights. Like I'll go around a tight corner and just end up in a giant room that I didn't know existed. The rooms and hallways are just so endless. And there are some hallways like this where I don't want to add any lighting inside of it as they look so spooky. I'm gonna leave them like that. I've spent the last hour just flying around in spectator mode, finding new rooms to light up, but I think I've covered everything at this point. Now we can just go and delete the redstone blocks from each of the 4 entry points on each side. Oh, this is such a big area. And then we can select everything we've welded it, and then use //stack to stack it a ton of times in this direction. I really hope I don't crash, as this is gonna be a lot of blocks. Okay, it's been a few minutes, but I think it's all loaded. Let's just fly over to the other end. It just keeps going and going and going and going. And now let's stack this in the other direction too to make it a giant square. I need to confirm the command, seeing as it's so many blocks. What number even is that? 317 million blocks. Wow. This is probably the biggest command that I've ever done with welded it. I'm gonna need to up my render distance to see this. Yeah, this is really making me lag. I think I give up trying to load all of this in, but yeah, it's big. As big as it is though, it's really empty, which the backrooms are kind of meant to be, but I want to try and level it up a bit. Seeing as it's a liminal space, it's not uncommon for items or even entire rooms to no-clip into existence, appearing in the most weird places you'd never expect them to spawn in.
All these rooms, this place built them. Actually, more like it remembers them.
And so I want to add some office-related rooms to fit the theme. I'm going to do it in a new world, and then we can copy-paste all of these down into random spots, hundreds of blocks apart. I didn't know what specific rooms offices have, so I googled for a list, and I'm just making every single location that it gave. I've purposefully designed every room to have multiple entrance points, and not too many walls. That way, once they're pasted in, they'll delete a bunch of random walls in the back rooms and look very out of place, which is my goal. I'm hoping these will really just make our back rooms look so much more liminal. Especially with all the bamboo that I've used, it gives the rooms such an eerie and dusty look, and makes them all look like they're part of the same office. I spent a few hours on these, and I really like the scale and the realism of them all. But now we can just copy each individual room, and then fly over to the ceiling of our back rooms and find a completely random location, and then paste the room in. This worked perfectly. This is the most backroomsy thing that I've ever seen. Alright, I guess I'm just gonna go around and do this again, but for every other room design. Because I don't know where exactly I'm placing each room down, they really look like they've just no-clipped into existence. Every room looks like it doesn't belong here. I also want to take some of the furniture that I built inside of the rooms and spread it across the back rooms. That way you could be walking for hours and just come across a random chair or something like that. It will just add a bit more ambience. But with that, I think the main office-themed part of the back rooms is all finished. And I really like it so far. I've spent 10 minutes just running around trying to find a room or some furniture, and all I've come across so far is a wardrobe, which means that we've probably spaced everything out perfectly. I finally found a room too. It only took 30 minutes. Now that we've got all these small rooms though, I want to add some giant rooms too. Like entire structures that have been ripped out of reality and clipped into the back rooms. This video by Vaporama Vision has been embedded in my brain since I first saw it, but it's of this giant pool back room with an impossibly big statue submerged halfway under the water. I really want to make this in Minecraft. Before I do though, we'll need to build the pool rooms. We can carve out a huge chunk of the backrooms over here so that there's room to build them. If you don't know what the pool rooms are, they're essentially another version or level of the backrooms. Instead of being an endless office, instead it's an endless system of indoor pools. It's a really creepy area. It's personally my favorite level of the backrooms. I'm building it just like we did with the original layout, creating some walls on the ground by hand, which I can then stack upwards after. I'm trying to add a lot more singular blocks too, which will turn into pillars once we stack everything up. This time I'm also, of course, marking out a ton of pools, which are all connected to each other. Okay, let's stack the walls up again, and we can quickly throw on a roof as well. Yeah, it's just as dark and spooky in here as you'd expect, and to be honest, I want to keep it really dark. However, I do think at least a few lights are very necessary. In fact, just having a couple of lights makes the rooms look even darker, as they really contrast the unlit areas. They also just make it look so cold in here. While I was going around adding lights, I also decided to add in a couple of pool decorations. This would be like the equivalent of having desks and chairs left out in the office backrooms, but here it's going to be pool floaties, lockers, and even showers. I want this area to be more decorated than the office rooms were, but still not over the top decorated to where some areas will still be empty. It should be clear that it's a deserted pool. I don't want to accidentally make it look really fun in here. This huge swimming area just looks so wrong, especially now it's filled with tons of deserted pool rings. I even added in some mosaic designs on some of the walls to really replicate that classic indoor pool look. This showering area over here is the exact vibe I was trying to go for. But now that we have this whole area done, we can move on to the main room. The reason that I made the pool rooms. We'll just connect it over here in this giant space. I want to make one huge room. Yeah, these walls should be big enough. Any bigger and you won't be able to load in the back walls. I've added the floor and ceiling, and this should be a good height for it. But we're going to need some lighting, and I want it to be really unnaturally bright in here. We can do the spotlights like we did in the main backrooms, but this time using purple frog lights to make the room feel a lot colder. Let's stack these all across the ceiling now. The lights make the room seem even bigger. They barely light anything up. We can fill the entire room in with invisible light blocks to add that unnatural glow that I was planning for. And under each of the spotlights, we can make the light blocks even brighter so that they look like they're shining down. And now we'll just stack that again. Yeah, this is exactly what I was hoping for. I love building at this kind of scale. It always makes such insane builds. Okay, yeah, especially with the water. Just imagine what it's gonna look like with the giant statue in the middle. Before I add that though, we'll need some kind of transition into the room. I think it could be cool to make a tiny red water slide that goes from the pool rooms into the huge statue room. That way, 1 second you're in a super claustrophobic tunnel, and the next you're in a seemingly endless room. And now that I've placed the statue down, this should look really cool. Let's try it out. I'm so nervous to see what this looks like. Oh wow, yeah, this looks perfect. I don't know why, but it looks so scary, but also kind of calming. It doesn't look like Minecraft at all. I am so happy with this. I don't want to stop here though. I want to add even more rooms. In fact, I want to add entire locations that I've just no-clipped into the backrooms. I've asked my friend Squeaky Juice to come online and help me out, and together we worked on building a couple more locations that I can paste into the backrooms. The first is this place that looks pretty ugly from the outside. However, nobody's gonna see that. But if you go inside, there's this giant mall. It's packed with tons of shops, as well as a food court, seating, and loads of decorations. It's meant to look really retro, and there's lots of hallways, so it's very easy to get lost in here. The other location we worked on is this arcade, which might be my favorite part of the backrooms now. It's just filled with arcade machines, as you could probably guess. But there's also a very neon bowling alley and a laser tag arena too. Imagine being in the backrooms and just ending up here. That being said, let's add them into the backrooms now. I've made the entry point of the mall the highest spot possible, so that when you enter, the views are crazy from up here. We can also add some of the shopping carts from inside, spread around the backrooms hallways nearby. In fact, let's even add some of the arcade machines in the halls around the arcade too. You can now finally gamble in the backrooms. While I've been doing this, another friend of mine has also been building, so that we can add as many rooms as possible. If we go round this corner, there's this huge hotel reception with a giant chandelier that lights up the entire room. But an even bigger room he's also built is this play area that's on such a huge scale that it feels like it's from another dimension entirely, or like it glitched when it appeared in the Backrooms. There's one last room that I want to add to this project that I'm going to build directly in the middle of the map, as it ties everything together. I want to build Captain Clark's Ottoman Empire. If you haven't seen the new movie, this place is pretty important, but essentially it's just a pirate-themed furniture store. I thought having it in the middle would make a lot of sense, like it's been swallowed into the Backrooms. I've spent so long just staring at walls, but I think, with this, I'm finally finished. I'm so happy with how these Backrooms ended up. This is the most fun I've had building in years. If you want to explore this for yourself, I'm going to post a free world download in my Discord if this video manages to reach 5,000 likes. Also, I'm so close to 100,000 subscribers. I know I've been saying that for years now, but I'm actually close now. So please consider subscribing if you like building videos. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Goodbye.